Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at another budget projector, this one provided to me by UUO, and we're going to see if it really is worth the $300 price tag. This is Steve from Restalgia, and let's get started. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, please consider going down below the video and subscribing as we are working our way towards 30,000 subscribers. Now right out of the gate, I want to let you guys know that this was 100% sent to me for review, but my opinions on this are going to be 100% my own, and I will give you guys my honest opinion about the device in general. Now this projector is a budget projector that retails in and around the price point of about $300, and in general it's not actually a very expensive device, and it is marketed as a quote-unquote portable device that you can use if you want to take it outdoors or camping or something along those lines. And that's actually how I'm going to take a peek at this. I'm going to review this as strictly a budget device. I'm not going to try to compare this to a $1,000 projector or anything like that. Now taking a peek in the box, we're going to get a few things. The first thing that we're going to get is obviously a power cord. This is one of the things that is a pet peeve for me. I just wish they would include like a 6-foot or a 9-foot power cord. It would just make things so much easier in terms of actually getting this thing connected. Next, we're going to get an adapter that is a 3.5mm to composite. Those are going to be really handy if you're connecting in any sort of retro video game console or any sort of device that doesn't actually output via HDMI. Next, we are going to get an HDMI cable, which is definitely nice. And then we also do get a little remote. It's just a very basic remote that has very basic functionality, but it is important to note that the remote control itself will actually glow in the dark. Once you've got some UV exposure, you'll actually get some glowing, which is a nice little feature to have if you are going to be working with it at nighttime or in low light settings. Finally, the last thing that we get in terms of accessories is just an instruction manual that more or less goes through the settings and the features and generally all your basic information. Now getting this thing out of the box, it actually is fairly large and it's got some good weight to it, and looking around it actually looks quite nice. If you take a peek along the top here, we have almost like a brushed silver type of finish, which is definitely nice in terms of its aesthetic appeal, and it does look very modern all the way around. Now looking at the front here, we'll pop off the lens cover, but I do want to mention that this is advertising as a 6,000 lumen outputting device, which should be sufficient if we're going to use this in normal daylight settings. That being said, when we actually do some testing, I'm going to show you guys how it looks on screen with a lot of natural light, and then when you kind of cover up that natural light, how it actually looks as well. Now this is a native 1080p projector, and it does support 4K HD video. Keeping in mind it can't output 4K, but it can accept a 4K signal and downscale it back to 1080p. Additionally, the lens can output up to a 300-inch display, which is pretty nice, and it does have a plus or minus 50-degree digital keystone adjustment, so that way you can kind of position it on different angles in order to get the proper visuals for whatever your setup actually looks like. Now taking a peek around the device, if we look at the back here, we're going to see some inputs and outputs. The first thing that we're going to see is a VGA input. That's going to be good if you want to use this as a PowerPoint projector or connecting it to your laptop if your laptop doesn't have HDMI out. Additionally, we've got two USB ports, one of them specifically labeled as 5 volt. That's nice if you want to plug in a Raspberry Pi or if you want to have some other device that's connected and powered by USB. Just to the side of that, we do have an IR sensor, which is nice, and I will mention there is an IR sensor on the front as well, so it doesn't really matter where you put your projector, your remote control should still be able to communicate with it effectively. And then finally, we also have two 3.5mm jacks, one of them specifically for AV input, and the other one is if you wanted to plug in a set of earphones. Looking on the left-hand side, we have an SD card reader as well as two HDMI inputs. And then on the right-hand side, we have our keystone adjustment, as well as our focus dial, which will help us depending on the size of screen that we're actually going to be displaying on. Now, right up on the top of the device, we are going to have our menu options, our power button, and then all of our navigation style buttons. You don't actually need to use the remote control. You can control everything right on the device itself. Now to show this thing off, I really wanted to put this in some real life settings. And what I decided to do is go into one of my rooms that has a ton of natural light, and I left all the blinds open so that way you guys could see with a ton of natural light coming in when the sun is at its brightest, what it's going to look like on screen. And I got to say, I'm a little bit unimpressed with the daytime settings. When you take a peek on the advertising that they provide and what it's supposed to look like during daytime light, honestly, it doesn't look like that. I mean, it is a projector. You can't expect amazing daytime light, especially for a $300 projector. But when you're advertised it's a 6,000 lumen output, you would expect to maybe get a little bit more brightness. That being said, when I closed the blinds, and even when I had just 50% natural light in the room, the visibility was substantially improved and things looked a lot better. Now, this projector is not designed for high FPS output. It's perfectly fine if you're going to be watching some Netflix videos or you're going to be doing some very basic video gaming, but definitely not something if you want to do some competition style gaming or anything like that. You're going to want to get a 4K screen with high FPS and high refresh rates. If that's what you're playing or that's what you're doing, this is not the device for you. But if this is more of a casual projector, you want to just kick back on the weekends, watch a movie, you want to take this outside, maybe display this on the side of your house, or take it out with you camping, this is more than sufficient for that. And in terms of gaming, I mean, it's perfectly fine for most games. It's just those high-level games you don't really want to mess around on this device with. Now, in terms of what you're going to see on screen here, I did decide to do a full 1080p 60 FPS video so you can actually see kind of how smooth and how well it looks when you're running those types of videos. But I also did some gaming, and I did play some of the newer games for the Nintendo Switch, as well as threw in some retro classics for the Super Nintendo, so you guys can have a pretty good idea of what this looks like and how it sounds. Now, I do want to mention that the fan is actually quite loud. It does actually advertise that this is less than 55 decibels, and projectors aren't known for being quiet, but I will say this was a little bit louder than I expected. That being said, the speaker that's on this thing is actually quite good, and it was able to overpower that fan, so if you have the volume up loud enough, it's not really a problem. Which does actually bring me to my next point, is the audio quality. And for these types of devices, I tend to be a little bit on the conservative side and assume that things are going to be tinny or not sound very good. But actually the audio quality coming out of this device is fairly decent. It's not the best, mind you, it is just a small little speaker, but it did put out some good volume, and it actually can get quite loud. I never pushed this thing higher than 40%, and it filled up the entire room with absolutely no problems in terms of audio, and completely drowned out the fans. But that's pretty much it in terms of my personal take on this thing. It is a nice device. As I said, it does advertise 6,000 lumens of brightness. I don't know how accurate that is. Like I said, I was a little bit disappointed with the daytime viewing, but it was acceptable during the day when you close out the blinds and you knock out some of that natural light. It's definitely usable. And like I said, at nighttime, these things look wonderful on the screen. Now, this thing does retail for about $300, and my opinion is for that price, it's definitely worth it. But when you are looking at a budget projector, you're going to want to know specifically what you're going to use it for, because this might not actually be the best one for you. If you're looking for some high FPS games, the previous video that I had done about a month ago on a different projector is actually better for you than this one is. But if you are looking for a brighter projector, and if you're just going to use it for watching Netflix or streaming YouTube, for example, then this one's going to be more than sufficient. But that's pretty much all I've got for you guys. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys are considering picking up a projector for any reason, and if so, what are you going to use it for? Give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't like it. But that's pretty much all I've got for you. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys again real soon.